Thank you very much for such a large crowd. I'm glad to be here. I'm sorry that I haven't been in Stephen's garden. And I would like to thank everybody involved with Celia's group. They've been great. And Gadra led me through a very nice interview. Celia said it was going to be like speaking just to a garden club, but I've had an interview, I've had a photography session. It's a little different than the garden club talk. And I'll have to mention this. We were in Bolivia this summer and were delayed in getting back, and I had to email Kim because she kept emailing about when she was going to be available to take my picture. And finally I emailed her and said, I'm delayed in Bolivia due to social disturbances, and I'll get with you as soon as I get back to take pictures. So I'm glad to be here. Did get out of Bolivia. I'm going to speak today about international flair in the garden. I'm going to start out with just a brief, I think there are 3 points that you can bring this international idea into your garden. The first of these would be design, the overall design of your garden. We in the West have great garden history and influences from Roman times, Greek times, and even further back. But we have 3 great landscape schools that emerged out of Europe. We have the Italian school, which its great genius was the ability to pick the place for a garden. If you've been to Italy, they're just stunning. And they, for the most part, are walled gardens, very formal gardens. But their other great genius in picking location was sort of, they were the first to jump over the wall of the garden and to actually frame a view of the natural landscape and bring it in as part of the garden, even though they didn't farm it. And that's what you see when you go to Italy today, is these incredible gardens, and then you look out, you see that amazing Italian landscape outside the garden. The second step was the French. And their gardens reflected their society and became a point where the king was the center. And when you were in the garden, as far as you could see, it was manipulated and controlled. It was all the king and everything extended from the king. Lenotre was the great French garden designer. And his first garden at Vaux-le-Vicomte is a small garden, but he used perspective there. But when you're in that garden, there's an alley of trees that you look down, and it just seems to stretch forever to the horizon. You just feel like it's going to go on forever. And he used that then to great effect at Versailles. The French idea went all over Europe. The Italian preceded it. And then finally, we had the big English landscape. And this was a reaction to this control, a romantic idea of nature. They wanted to bring nature back to the garden. We in America probably benefit the most from this English idea of landscape. And I would say that for the most part, when we're at the landings or we're driving around suburban America, that is sort of the ideal of landscape that we are used to the most in this country, is this idea of the English landscape, with lawns and flowing beds and plant materials. Now the second element or the elements in the garden where you can bring an international flavor to the garden. And this would be structures. This would be pergolas, arches, statuary, water features. All of those things play in this elements that are in the garden. And finally, the great stars of the garden are, of course, the plant materials. And I'm a great plants person. I love plants. Somebody asked at one point what kind of garden did I have at home. I said I had a black pot garden. And they said, well, what's a black pot garden? I said, well, you have all these plants in black pots and you sort of trying to figure out where they go. It's sort of it's a little bit of a curse because you tell people when you're designing for them that they need to have a place for every plant. You have a design. And people say I don't do that at home. But the plants, Savannah is just an incredible area for plants. And when we think about plants, most people, you think azaleas, camellias, all of these plants, and you almost think, well, they're native. They're from here. Well, they're not from here. They're all imported. They came from other places. We do have native azaleas. We do have some plants that are distantly related to camellias. But they're all from Asia, and they were brought in, so they're all introduced. Also, on a hot summer night, you smell honeysuckle. It's not from here. It was introduced and was very happy, as was wisteria. There is a native wisteria that's not as invasive as the Japanese kind, but all of those plants are introduced. So that's one of the things we have to consider when we're bringing in plants from foreign places is are they going to be compatible? And so there's a big new awareness, and I want to point that out, that with plant materials, there are lists now of invasive plant materials that you really want to avoid having in your garden. And I think the garden clubs in America have lists. There are lots of lists of invasive species that you need to watch for. Now I'm going to show some slides of our garden at Rosewood. And it's a very eclectic garden. It's a garden of two people who collect all kinds of things and lots of them. And so I just want to share that because I don't, not many people come to my garden. It's not open for tourists. It's sort of all beaten trail, so to speak. We're very fortunate to have been here for 26 years, 29. So it's a work in progress. It's still a work in progress. It's changed quite a lot in that 25 years. It's a long, thin lot that's about 150 feet wide and a little over 300 feet long. And the house is sort of centered in the middle of that lot. The driveway is over from one side. On the left-hand side, there's a community walk. It's a small forest of communities now because they've basically become trees, which they like to do. We have a collection of close to 300 different kinds of things on the place. And they actually have started already to bloom, and they'll bloom into April of next year. So it's just a wonderful plant that we have. This is coming into the house up the driveway, and here's an element. It's an